Welcome back. Today we're going to do a quick review of my Bluetti Power AC200max and how I'm using it in a 24/7 environment with my home office. Now it's only 2,000 watt hours, so one has to be careful not to draw too much power throughout the day and drain it down. I have 5 solar panels, basically 1,000 watt hours of solar panels. 2 of them are pointed east to catch the sunrise up to about 2 p.m. and then 3 more pointed south to catch it to about 5 p.m. Then they get some tree interference, shading and stuff, then get some more later on. But one of the most important things about using this in a 24/7 environment is understanding the weather in your area. I live in Michigan. It gets cloudy a lot. Of course, one of the biggest issues is overcast days. Right here we can see the next 10 days is really overcast. So there's no chance to charge my batteries up at any time during this issue with solar. Right now, as an example, it is 10:30. I'm getting about 130 watts in from the solar panels. That's out of 1,000. So, 1.5, 12% basically. And I'm using only 66 right now. You really look at the energy you use during the day when you try to use this in a 24/7 environment. For instance, I used to use my large TV a lot, just keep it on, and that draws in itself 100 watts. But since I stream, I've been trying to use my personal laptop more, that's mostly always on, and I'll stream on there instead of a large TV, and that saved a lot of wattage. There's a light bulb above me in my office too, and during the day I'll unscrew it and turn it off because I keep it on at night. It's the only light on really at night. But you really start looking at ways you can make this extend throughout the night, because if this can't make it until the morning time, I have to plug back into the grid. And I do have this to be able to remotely start grid power, but when I look at my electrical bill, I notice I'm using far more electricity to recharge this thing than just to swap out from using this powering my home office to just plug it into the wall again. So that's my option, and then I'll just wait for this to get recharged with solar up into the upper 90s. This needs to be into the 90s by 5 p.m. in order for it to give me enough power for, watching TV at night, being on the computer at night, stuff like that. But for the most part, I've been successful in using this as I learn more and more about my own energy waste upstairs. And I try to use this system and also my EB3A to recharge basically everything. As you can see right now, I'm being lit by the EB3A using an offside light here. And I use this to recharge everything. I have flashlights. These have rechargeable batteries. And anytime I recharge any rechargeable battery of any type, I try to use a solar generator. One of them. And that could be either this flashlight, as shown here. It could be a cell phone, and I'll usually plug these in not directly to this, but I'll plug it into the laptop, which is plugged into this. So these are always recharged using solar. And you can see here, all my outdoor tools, this is one of the batteries to my lawnmower. I'll always try to replug this. I'll always try to recharge this using solar power. And of course, any other devices I have. I have a lot of devices that use these things. You're going to use a weed whacker, hand drill, spotlight, fans, other lights. A lot of these fans nowadays are actually, you can dual power them. Use a battery. That'll run your fan. But anytime I use one of these batteries, I try to recharge it using a solar generator. Even all my bicycle equipment, and sometimes there's days on end where there isn't enough solar power to compensate for what I'm using. So what I want to talk about here is I've been tracking close to every day the solar wattage I get from my panels, the usage I'm using. This column here is the solar watts. This column here, I, is the usage I'm using. This J column is the battery level, and K is some notes. Of course, over here in F is time and date. So just looking at one day here, you can see how much it varies throughout the day. 2 p.m. getting 96, hour later getting 360. And my usage, depending if I'm using stuff or not, is ranging from like 117 to 180. Usually about 150 is the average. And of course, tracking my battery level. You see it goes from 32, goes down a bit during the morning time. Then it's able to get up to like 93, and then down to 72 at 10 p.m. The next day, you can see solar usage here, wattage usage here, and battery level. So this got to 100% at 3 p.m. So there's 0 solar. But since it got so low in the morning time, I really stopped using the battery system. I unplugged from it. You can see this throughout all the time. Here's another day, really a bad day, but I was able to get charged up, and then I used it. As days go on, then you get cloudy and rainy days. Then you get cloudy and rainy days, and something like this happens. I marked it here. Is the battery got down to 29% at 4 p.m. And I know I really need to be at least 50, a little bit over 50% by 5 p.m. So I unplugged it from the 200 max in my office here. And you can see 0 usage for the day. And the next day, nothing was connected and got charged up pretty good. So I started plugging things back in this area here. But then once again, it was not a very good day the next day. 97, 78 watts, 43 watts. So I unplugged again. Started getting some good solar in the morning time. So I plugged it back in, but just the TV, as you can see here. It got down again. I unplugged even the TV. And at this point, you just kind of wait for it to slowly get charged. Hopefully the system will get charged. It gets charged up to 100% the following Monday. So Sunday to Monday. So the multiple days problems here. You just go on and on and on. You'll see that Michigan's not a very good solar state. And I've been doing this now for a year and a half, tracking the weather in relation to solar. Some days they're good and it'll compensate. I'm using bringing in 370 watts, using 90, 160, 160, kind of keeps even, but you can see it gets some charge. There's days, if I roll down here, I'm sure, days with the nighttime to the morning time. Green is when the solar charger starts getting voltage, and maybe 0, but then it'll go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it works pretty good, but not every single day. There's actually days, you can see here I'm charging my Ryobi batteries that I showed earlier. There are days like 9:25 just recently where I just unplugged. It was overcast, the batteries were winding down, there wasn't enough solar generation during the day, and I just stayed unplugged for, what is that, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, until Friday afternoon when it finally got to 100%. Plugged it back in. I was just using grid power instead of using the solar generator because the battery wasn't up enough. And I thought about expanding it, but I got the same problem here. There's not enough solar days to recharge even another 600 watt hours. So I may have a good stretch of multiple days and recharge those batteries, but then I'll have days like this where I just discharge them. So you really have to track before you really get heavily invested into a system of how good is your solar. Michigan is not so good. If you're in Florida, Texas, Arizona, I assume you get much, much better sun. But here you can see, I try to track some stuff here, especially if I'm going to talk about it. and whether there's good days and bad days. There's another on October 5th. Very little input in solar wattage. You know, I had to unplug because the battery level got to 0 at one point. So before I start using the solar generator, the AC200max, I want it to be in the 90s, and then I'll start using it again. See, so I kind of hold off till I get to 100%, then I'll start using it, recharging a more battery. And what I want to show you here in this is my energy company. This is what they charge, 15.45 cents per kilowatt hour for this, you know, light blue gray area. Monday through Friday, they charge 16.75 cents per kilowatt hour, October through May, and 20.98 cents June through September for the 3 to 7 p.m. But anyways, that was a quick overview of how I use my AC200max, trying to use it in a day-to-day setting, and also how I track the weather and how it impacts its usage. I've been tracking long enough now where I really don't need to track it anymore, because I know Michigan weather, and once it gets cloudy and there's a forecast for 3, 5, 10 days of heavy overcast, that I'll be turning it off and using grid power. Of course, you live in the south, you're going to get much better sun than if you live in the north. So you really have to look at that. You have to look at how much you pay for your electrical bill. And this really is more than just using a 24/7 environment. I'm trying to use it in a 24/7 environment because the battery technology allows it to be recycled. Anyway, that's hopefully some good information about using a solar generator in your house, trying to use it 24/7. It really depends on where you live, how much sunshine you get and stuff like that. A lot of my video got corrupted, so I kind of splice and dice things together, so I hope you liked it. I'll be having more a little bit later on. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and like, and we'll see you later.